I hope you don't mind if I record this. Um, I saw somebody posted saying that they wouldn't be able to join, so I'm just gonna record it and then release it to anybody who wants to watch. If that's okay. Cool beans. I don't know if you can hear my dog, but she's being loud. Um, so first off, how's everybody doing? Good. Hey, sorry about that. Did everybody say that they were doing good? I saw some thumbs up. Cool beans. Um, so has anybody been kind of like finding any issues or anything like already? I know technically it hasn't started, but like I'm already running into some issues. So if anybody has anything they want to talk about, go right ahead. Go ahead, Caitlin.
Sorry, I just realized I wasn't on mute. But I know for us, we actually have officially started. We told our university that we actually have to get things rolling now because we do all of our summer work and stuff. So the biggest thing that we're doing is just working with the university to figure out what our guidelines are, and we're helping them every step of the way of saying what our expectations are for the next year and all that kind of stuff.
Cool beans. And what are your guidelines if you have any yet?
So a big thing is that we're requiring students to wear masks on campus unless they're not allowed to, and if they're not allowed to, they have to show why they're not allowed to and stuff. And one of the things that we're doing is that when people come in, that we'll be handing out masks to each of our residents and everything. We're trying to create a statement for students to sign saying that they understand the social distancing guidelines and that if they if they keep going against them, then there will be some sort of action that comes on them, if that makes any sense.
Your audio just kind of cut out. Sorry. Caitlin, at the end there, your audio kind of cut it out. I'm not sure what you said after there will be consequences if you don't follow the guidelines.
Could you say that again? I couldn't hear you.
Sorry, making sure my fan wasn't blowing in my headset. I was saying after you said there'll be like a consequence if they don't follow the guidelines. Your mic kind of cut out a little bit.
Oh, that was essentially it. We were trying to figure out the different consequences, because for us, we have a student disabilities council, and they brought up the fact that people have disabilities that won't let them wear masks. So creating consequences really is a very slippery slope to go on. So we haven't really figured that out yet, whether it's going to be something that has to do with housing or if it's something that has to do with academic probation. We're still figuring out the kinks.
Yeah, it's always something tough to think about, because it's it's hard to force people to do something, even though they should be doing it. I know myself, it's hard for me to wear masks because a lot of them don't fit me. I've had to order some specially made ones, so it's stuff like that's kind of tough. But yeah, we're kind of in the same boat. We don't directly deal with just our residents in general like that, but for programs, we'll have to have masks being worn, and that's something that we'll be talking about later this week. But yeah, it looks like that's going to be the new norm. So at least for this first semester. So but thank you for sharing that. Does anybody else have anything they want to share, or any ways that they're going to handle upcoming programs and events and stuff like that?
I'll go. So actually, at Hofstra, they literally yesterday just sent an email out to us saying we're going to be back on campus, as long as Long Island's okay, but for now they're planning on it. And we have I'm sure a lot of colleges are going to be doing this. We have a revised schedule, so we start 2 weeks early and we end Thanksgiving's the last day of the semester, last classes of the semester. Then they go home, and we're taking finals from home December 1st through 8th. So that's our semester, and then we're done. So everything's just gonna be really fast. And so that kind of affects some RHA stuff we had planned. We just last week on the 2nd, me and my e-board had an all fall planning meeting for the fall semester. But now that kind of we have to tweak it, because now we can't have a December event. We won't be there. So we were oh, should we make it virtual? But there might not be time. So we're going to discuss that. I said we'll come back in a month from now, because so yeah, it's just a matter of tweaking a couple things. And then there's the fact, kind of like Caitlin said, guidelines and stuff. We don't know. Hofstra doesn't know, are there going to be meeting restrictions, more than 30 people you can't have, or more than however many. So we don't know that yet. And then we don't know large events too. So we're just going to have to see. That's why I said we'll come back to that in another month and kind of see where we're at. And I'll get in touch with my advisor and Res Life staff and anyone else who may know. But yeah, so there's no really problems so far, and with that announcement, it's just tweaking some things for us. But we still, our first meeting is set to be September 14th, which is actually late because we were supposed to start the week before Labor Day, but then Labor Day is the Monday, and we have our meetings on Mondays, so hopefully that's all good. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think we all are. But yeah, it's tough not knowing what's going to happen, because it's right now we're doing 3 plans essentially. We have the normal plan, which is what we would normally do if this wasn't happening. A plan where we can only have limited amount of people, and then a virtual plan, which is really tiring because it's so much work.
We just did that at our last meeting. I had the 3 models set up. I was okay, normal, perfectly normal. And then I had I called it a hybrid thing, which I guess is what they decided is just they moved things, but the hybrid was a mix of online and in person, small in person. Then the last one was completely virtual. So we could rule the completely virtual one out. Now it's mostly normal, but yeah, we're just gonna have to tweak some things. But yeah, it was tiring. I sat there for like a couple hours and I was like going through just like the fall because we try to do like one large thing a month or like two. So it was a little, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you guys have like a big like program that you have coming back. Like all our legacy programs, we pretty much had to cancel for now, or at least push it back until, like you said, like a month later when we can revise it, which is really tough because there are legacy programs like what we do every year. So
Yeah, actually for us, those ones, there's two in February. They're like two, our biggest ones we're known for. And then October. So there's nothing like September's kind of like more setting up res councils and like setting up everything. So like our only event is like our first meeting and we have food and it's just like the first like introduction meeting. So that's like our first event, but like it's not but yeah, no, like our legacies are like later. But oh my gosh, that must be so tough too. I was worried about that too, because like what if everything was canceled and we are known for like things in October and then we used to do a December thing, but yeah, that's like a lot of planning and switching stuff.
yeah, it's definitely a tough thing, and it's just one of those things you got to deal with. I was kind of hoping that wouldn't be this type of year, but that's where we're going. So, I have another question also to you guys. So, I don't know what you guys call them. We call our like kind of our subgroups of e-board like area council for each one of our like live like dorms and stuff like that. They get their own area council, and we would all meet on like Monday for like a general body meeting. So how are you guys gonna go about that if that's what you guys do?
I guess I'll go because we do the same thing. Like, so we call them residence councils, and like in each, I think this is what you're saying, like in each hall or each like building, you have one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then like they report at the general body meeting. We have that too every Monday at 6:30. So I mean, like, do you mean in terms of going forward for the like this semester?
Yeah, like what are your plans? Because as of right now, we're in like this area where it's like we can either go virtual or we can only have presidents and our ACCs, which ACCs, if you guys don't have that, is just like someone who attends. They're like the admin for.
Yeah. Okay, we have the same. We're called SACs, like student. Yeah, so that's like they're like the main representative of that res council. So yeah, like in terms of going forward, if we have to reduce meeting size, then they would probably like be the only ones to show up, or maybe like them. And if they have like, because like the res council, you could have like a secretary, and you could have like, if you want, or like a second, kind of person. So like if we have to reduce meeting size, it would probably just be like the SAC and maybe like a secretary coming for like each res council, and that's it. Compared to like usually we're just like you could all come, like the whole res council if you can / want to. So yeah, just like reduce that. But I would love to keep them in person because like I like it better than virtual. Like obviously this works if we have to, and like if Hofstra's like you have to go virtual, then we'll do it virtually. But I'd rather keep it in person, so I'm gonna try to like make sure that happens. But if we can't, definitely then we'll switch to like Zoom probably the same time, because like that's when people are free and that's when like we're free as an e-board. Like everyone knows that time for RHA, so yeah.
Yeah, that's what I plan for every year because we do it at 7 o'clock, but I'm like, gotta keep it open no matter what. So, but yeah, that I too want to keep it in person because I hate it online. I don't like it. It doesn't feel like yeah, it doesn't feel like RHA. But it also sucks that we'd only be able to have either president or ACC or both. Just like because it's like the whole point is for all the area council to be there. It's just kind of rough to not have that. So yeah. Anybody else wish to share on that or anything else?
For us at my school, we call them hall councils. The problem that we're running into is basically our department is looking to reduce the size of the hall councils in general. So with us, usually only the presidents have to come. So that's like 17 people plus our e-board. So that's not really a problem in terms of us having meetings. But for the hall councils, like in their halls, they can basically have as many people as they need to be able to run them, especially since some halls can get up to like 600 people. So their hall councils can be fairly big. So the department wants us to like basically give them a maximum of like how many people they can put on their hall councils, and they're kind of looking to like having like possibly like 5, I think. So for halls that are like really big, like 400, 500 people in them, that's like a problem because you're expecting 5 people to be able to make events for like 500 people. So yeah, that's kind of just like us. And then another thing is, I'm not sure if you guys do this on your campus, but RHA is in charge of move-in and like getting volunteers for moving in. And so we have to like reevaluate our plan about how that will look and like what exactly those volunteers will do. So I don't know if y'all have already started discussing that, but do you guys kind of like have a working plan or have thought about like what you would do for that if your schools do that?
I guess in terms of move-in, since we're like, well, I mean, we just do it as part of residence life. And so residence life is the main one that does it. We're just there helping as an organization. And I think for us at North Dakota, they've decided to do multiple move-in days. So normally it's just been one really large move-in day, just one day everyone comes, like all 4,000 people move in. But then it's going to be like spread out over the course of, I think, a week is what they got going now. And then the problem is just trying to figure out how to keep those people that moved in earlier entertained up until like when school begins and whatnot. And that's where we're really struggling and trying to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, in UNCW, as of right now, we are gonna have to like cancel kind of we're gonna have to cancel kind of our move-in date, or not like the move-in date, but like having volunteers come. It's like in Wilmington, it's apparently pretty bad. So like just like the spread of it. And it probably has something to do with because we have some Navy bases there and people are coming out all the time. So we just had to like cancel it completely, and people have to just kind of move in themselves. It'll probably be like how we did our move out, where you have like a whole week or 2 weeks or something. You have to pick like an hour or two to do that. I don't know how they're going to do that though, because I don't know about you guys, but I can't move out in an hour. I don't know how I'm going to move in. So I don't know how they're going to do it, but I'm sure they'll figure it out.
Sorry to interrupt. They are like in the email yesterday, they mentioned, and again, I don't know how they plan on carrying this out, because like you said, moving out and then even moving in, like that takes me like over an hour, definitely. And like, there's just so much. And yeah, so they mentioned in the email, they were like, all residents moving in are gonna have to move in like by appointment. And I'm like, how the heck? Like we have around like about 3,000 residents, which is like kind of small, but like still, how do you expect to schedule? Like I don't know how they plan on doing that, but I don't think that's gonna work out so well, because you can't schedule that. Like everyone just kind of moves in whenever, and especially like we start classes on a Monday, so like the weekend, that 2 days right before is like the heaviest. So I don't know how they plan on doing that.
I can speak on that. So at Marquette, we actually do appointments. We've been doing appointments before, but how they do it is they just put all of their really big stuff, so they can really put in everything that they have for like their dorm in their one appointment, and they have more than an hour, because it's like there's limited amount of people, so and stuff like that. So that's what we're gonna be doing again, and typically we have it's over 2 weeks, and it's for like 12 hours a day. So like It's like a lot of time, but I'm not sure what they're going to be doing about that this year. And I was also going to talk about volunteers. So we actually really needed volunteers for move out because we needed people to wipe down our carts. So like for cart cleaning and that kind of stuff. And so yeah.
Yeah, same as Mahogany and what she just posted in the chat. With MSU, yeah, we're kind of big, and since we're so big, we definitely do appointments. Like you have to in order to like get things rolling. So the best way that we do it is that we put it by what year you are and what neighborhood you're in, and what floor you live on. So depending on those three things, like you move into your dorm. So say if you live on like the second floor or an odd number floor, then you're going to have a different day of move-in than the people on the even numbered floor. That way, so like elevators and stuff and going up and down the stairs, it's like easier because you won't have like everybody will either be going to the same place or they're going to be like in the same level and it's the same chaos reserved on one floor. But the easiest way we do that is by assigning appointment times, and then we advise for you to drop all your stuff off in the carts to take up to your room. And instead of unpacking then, you just get all of your stuff out of your car, bring it up to your room, and then afterwards you take your car and park it somewhere, and then you can spend your time in your room unpacking as a family. So it's not necessarily you have like an hour to unpack everything. It's like you have an hour of your car being in the front of the dorm and you can take your stuff up and down. So I just wanted to give thoughts to that. And also, Hayden, you said something about your city being super bad right now, possibly because of like military bases. I will say, and this might be beneficial for your residents, someone asked, is that a lot of I'm a military brat, by the way. My dad's in the military, so most people in the military right now, they're not allowed to go 50 miles away from their city to limit the spread of coronavirus. So just want to spread that knowledge just in case if that was something that you're worried about.
Thank you. I actually did not know that, so that's comforting to know. At least we know that's not the problem. But okay. I had another question that popped up in my head while we were talking about this. So, are your residents like, so if they live in a dorm, our dorms, you get a roommate. Are you guys having to only, hold on, let me think about my question. Are you guys having to only have one person per room, or can you guys still have roommates? Okay.
I guess for us, many of the other universities in the state of North Dakota have decided that there were going to be no roommates for next year. However, like at NDSU, because we guarantee housing for all first-year students, so they're pretty much all on campus, and there's just not enough space on campus to guarantee every single first-year student a room without a roommate. And so NDSU has publicly stated that they're committed to honoring all room assignments for next year. They concede that there will be changes in terms of like lounge spaces or whatnot, the laundry rooms, that kind of stuff, but then that they will be honoring all current housing spaces.
At the moment, Marquette is limiting rooms to about 1 or 2 because we had some residence halls that had up to 4 or 3 residents in a room, and so they're trying to reduce it and space out their rooms. But it also depends on the hall because each floor layout per hall is very different from one another, and I think they're trying to figure out some kind of math with that.
Yeah, at UNCW, like sorry if I mess up your name, Mahogany. Like you said, we're at full capacity as well. or pretty close to at least. So we'll have to have, or I won't have to because I have an apartment, so it's pretty sick. Sorry. But lost my train of thought. Thought it back. Okay. So everybody will have to have a roommate if that's what the original plan was, unless you had some kind of health, like I forgot one of the things, like weakened immune system or something like that, that could be fatal to you if you caught corona. So I know that somehow they're going to try to get those types of people their own room. I don't know how they're going to do it, but they're going to try. So
Talk to ASU about that. Arizona State University is doing that right now. I was going to reach out to them to ask exactly what those details are, but I'm almost positive that Arizona State University has an entire dorm right now that they're planning on dedicating just to like COVID positive people.
that actually brings up a good question. I wonder, I don't know if any of you have any plans or anything like that. I never even thought about it. What if one of our residents it is COVID positive? What would they do? Well, so what do any of you know what your schools would do for that? No. Yeah, I don't either. So we're in the same boat there. I guess they'd just be quarantined, I would think.
One thing I would say is that participate in if your university has like open town halls and they're getting questions from like students. I would definitely put that one out there because that's important, especially for like leaders like us.
Right. Yeah. I've never been to a town hall meeting, but I know they have them. So that might be a thing that, well, no, that will have to be a thing I'll have to start doing anyways, because part of the job. So, yeah. Anybody else have anything in regards to anything that we've spoken about, or any other questions or anything?
I guess I have a question. So for us, things look very different right now as to just RHA in general because, I mean, you take a hit when you all of a sudden have your campus leave for half a semester and you lose revenue. So I was wondering if you guys are feeling that hit at all, or if like things are changing next year because of it. Like one of the biggest reasons why we also, I'm wondering if y'all do summer work at all. Like if you are being paid for being an RHA, like if you are like doing summer work right now and everything, and like what exactly that looks like. But yeah, is like, have you seen anything affect your RHA because of the fact that like half of our students left in the middle of the semester?
I can speak on that. So I'm RHA president at Marquette, and I get 10 hours of office hours. And basically my responsibilities right now are to really rework a lot of our programs because we have mostly just legacy events. And so I have to like figure out and plan everything because what we had before, our model for like our e-board was that we had everything laid out for them and all they had to do was go through the process that they had to go through. And so I have to recreate those processes but make it all COVID safe. And then I also have to like make our whole like training week COVID safe and that kind of stuff. And also refigure our whole meeting structure because like we can't have like 30 people in a room and that sucks.
To go off both questions, these might not be very great answers, but I haven't seen any kind of anything different. I mean, we were kind of in a good space beforehand, and I don't think we lost a whole lot of money. I know that we had to do a lot of refunds, so I don't know what that looks like, but I know that our budget will be slightly smaller, like just like for area council and everything. But I don't think it will be like crazy different. Like we're looking almost at the same. And I wish I could tell you what our budget last year was, but I have no idea. I've been trying to pry it out of them, but they're like, oh, we'll tell you later. And I'm just like, okay, well. And then on your second question on if we're being paid or if we're working, so that's actually a good question because I am not sure. Technically, I am working, but not getting paid. And I don't think I start getting paid until the actual school year starts. I don't even know how much I'll get paid. All I've been told is that they have to change things. So if anything, that's probably the biggest thing I've seen being changed because of the semester last year and everything is what we're going to be paid with or how much. Because last year they told like I was told what they were getting paid last year, which was like I can't quite remember. It was a certain amount for like I think 10 hours, like Miracle said. Um, and what was I saying? But I have no idea how that's going to look this year. It's not very helpful, but that's my perspective on it at least.
I'm basically in the same boat because actually my RHA doesn't get paid, so like nothing with that. That's like a whole other thing we're trying to work on, but like that won't happen anytime soon, at least this year. So like not getting paid. And then in terms of like Caitlin, what you said, anything like budget wise, so once everything hit, like everyone's and like not just us RHA, like even other clubs, like we're our own budget through Res Life, but like our budget, like everything was frozen and like nobody could touch anything. And so currently we don't know anything. Like our advisor is still unsure, everything's still unsure. So like we haven't been able to touch our budget. We don't know if anything was maybe taken away because we had refunds too, like housing refunds. So like we don't know if they had to dip into ours. I don't think so. I hope not, but like we'll see. But yeah, but if anything, maybe it would be a small difference because I don't think they should take that much away from us. So yeah, budget wise, like we don't know, so we don't know what we're gonna work at with. Yeah, same thing. Yeah, budget. Yeah, so like we really don't know. We just kind of have to keep waiting. Like I think in like next month is when I'll probably find things out, and hopefully we can see what we have to work with, and like then we could start like planning budgets for like our events and like seeing what everything would cost and stuff. So yeah, and then in terms of like it hurting anything like member or like affecting RHA, I mean, yeah, it was like it just sucked to stop in the middle of the year. And in terms of like member things, like we put on like we had a Tiger King trivia night and like just not a lot of turnout because like yeah it was fun, but like not a lot of turnout. There were like 20 people because like it was just hard and like not that nobody cares, but like it was just still in the middle of school, so it was kind of rough to get people. But yeah, we're gonna have to see what happens. That's why like I know some people in the chat have been mentioning things they were doing, and one of the things I really liked was sending out a huge email blast to like the incoming freshmen. So I'm gonna try to do that because like freshmen, like that's good members to get. So like definitely gonna do that, and then maybe even if I could get my hands on like returning residents, I'll try to like just send a big email blast to that too. So like those different kinds of groups of people. Yeah, like I don't know with members because like we do have returners, so like I feel like whoever will return like would like that wouldn't change, like stopping wouldn't change that, and then it's just like new people will get new people. So yeah, we're not like really hurting or anything. It just kind of like stopped and it sucked, but we should be able to resume.
So for Texas State, our RHA does get paid. Right now, the president is the only one who works during the summer. and I get my housing paid for and then $110 stipend. And basically what I'm doing is I'm organizing NACURH, so like move in and trying to like see what that looks like now with trying to be conscious of COVID. I have to rework training and stuff, and then also rework like what type of programs we're going to do. But our RHA is in the middle of like transitioning from like a program-based organization to like a governing representative organization. So we're trying to work more closely with student government. And so I also have to figure out how that looks. So that's basically what we're doing. And then budget-wise, most of our student organizations, they control their own budget, sort of. Like they give us kind of like a range or whatever based on like how much we spend the previous year and whether we have to talk about whether we'll spend that much next year or something like that. So basically our previous president and treasurer cut some things from our budget from like programs that we'll no longer have. And then like money we didn't spend and kind of like rework that. So we do know what our budget for next year will look like. The problem is how do we allow our hall councils to put on programs if like we have to not have programs, if that makes sense. So yeah.
Yeah, that's like what we're doing. I wasn't thinking mostly like budget side because I have no idea how that works yet. I'm not going to even lie. I'm brand new to all of this. So I'm like learning the financial aspect, if I am being completely honest. The big thing with me is that I was just like wondering, because we have RHA, which is the Resident Halls Association, but then we have REHS, who's the admin of the housing services. So, and like for them, things like are getting hit because like you don't have people on campus anymore, so you don't have people using your facilities. So, and they're the ones who had to give refunds back. So there's that. But I know like my original advisor, she had to get furloughed. So she was saying, they were like saying, you're still working for us, but right now you're taking like a summer break because we're not having everybody like always working all the time because we don't want to pay you essentially. So I was wondering like more of that aspect, but I know that our organization groups, some of them are taking a hit because of elections. So I know that one of our big constituency groups is a council, and they emailed us saying, hey, our meeting didn't reach quorum. And since it didn't reach quorum, we couldn't vote on our tax referendum. And since we couldn't vote on it, now we don't have any like budget, anything with budget or our budget. Like we don't have one anymore because they didn't pass it, if that makes sense. So I was thinking like more on that side, because in order for us to like for you to have a seat with us or for you to be sponsored by us, that's something that has to happen. So that was like more of the information, but I appreciate all of y'all's responses because that was also answering the question. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I like personally I haven't experienced any of that, so it's like I'm sorry that's happening to you, especially if I think you just said you don't have an advisor right now, or like your advisor's been for whatever that word is. I can't pronounce it. I'm sorry. I know that must be tough because my advisor, his name's Teddy. He was talking to some of them, and like if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, like you can't talk to your advisors during that time because they're technically not working for the school, and I could not even imagine where I would be if I didn't have an advisor. So I'm really sorry that that's happening. But I mean, hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully it gets better. I don't know. I was going somewhere with that.
No, you're good. I like freaked when I got the email. I like looked to my mom. I was like, Mom, Jim's being furloughed. I don't know what to do. And it was like a mess. And she was like, I'm holding office hours. You saw my entire team at that office hours. And we were like, bro, what's going on? Like, and she's like, okay, I know that you guys are going to want to like split me comments over text, but like, don't, because I could get in trouble. And I have an advisor, it just isn't her. So she's just like, my advisor had a person she talked to, and that person she talked to, now she's my advisor. So it's a whole situation. It's not like I don't have one. It's just not my person. It's not Kim. But yeah, hopefully it'll get better.
Yeah, I hope so too. But I'm okay. Well, that's good. I'm glad you have somebody though, because yeah, it's a lot to deal with. So I just couldn't even. Okay. Well, I hope that answered your question a little bit. I can't give any more info because I don't really have any more info to give. So I'm sorry on that part. But I had a couple other questions, and if anybody else has any, just put an X in chat or just unmute or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But one of my questions is, so right now I'm dealing with less than half of an e-board. I don't know if any of you are dealing with that too. I see. How are you dealing with it? Because I am not dealing with it very well.
I'll just go real quick. So currently this year, both of our RHA and our NRHH exec board, as of now, are full. Wait, I take that back. There's one position missing on NRHH exec board. But we are a full exec board, so I can only speak to it right now. But this last year I was on our NRHH exec board, and we had only half the exec board for the whole year. We did start off the year with a full exec board, but then 3 members just, and it was really bad because it was our service chair and our recognition chair were 2 of them. So it was, and then also our admin director, which led leadership. So that really stunk. And it was just a lot of delegating tasks. So I was the vice president and my whole job was recruitment for our chapter, but then I also did a lot of the admin stuff. And then when it came to both like service and recognition, those 2 positions, since we run our NRHH as committees, there was actually, luckily we had members from our bodies step up and lead those. They didn't serve on the exec board, but they were, they didn't want to, but they did kind of step up into that role. So I don't really know how well it translates into an RHA side of things, but that's what we had last year.
So I ran for vice president, and we didn't vote. We didn't get a president, or this thing called a CDIO, which is a Chief of Diversity and Inclusions Officer. We did not get those 2 other positions filled. So right now we have 5 positions, and 2 of them are vacant. So me as being vice president, I am being an acting president and also an acting CDIO, those are the 3 most important jobs. And right now we're doing special elections inside the fall. That's our plan. The biggest thing for me is, the biggest thing I would tell you to do is to communicate, because I wasn't previously communicating with my e-board the best. Like, I was texting them individually, and then we all like started delegating, but then I realized that people were delegating on the same project. So at one point we were making a Google Drive, and 2 people were making 2 separate Google Drives, and I put us all in a group chat, and I was like, hey, do we need 2 separate Google Drives? Am I not knowing what I'm doing? They're like, we didn't know that that person was working on it. And it's all that kind of stuff. So the biggest thing I would say, what we're doing is delegating. I was talking to one of my advisor, and she came up with this really good thing of making a list. So, like, delegate things. Like, create a list of the jobs that you have to do for the positions that you have to fill, and then send it and, like, make a form out of it. and then send it to the other people on your team and send it to the other leadership members that you have. That way you can get their opinion of things like, oh, I would do really good in that, or I can do this. And then you'll have like assigned things, and all you have to do is like be that administrative person and like just making sure that they get it done. So this week, one of the biggest things I'm doing is for that CDIO position, I'm creating like a spreadsheet, and I'm going and asking my people and saying, what are your passions? Are there any of these things that you would be able to take on by yourself? Because I can't do 3 positions. As much as I would love to, and as much as I feel responsible to, I know I can't do it. So the biggest thing I would say is to delegate. And the second biggest thing that I would say is that if it's not in your constitution and bylaws already for your RHA, you need to set it up so that in the very beginning of your session in the fall, that you have a process to go through nominations and to get those positions filled, because you're only going to want to do it so far. So for me, we're having 3 GA meetings in a row. And then that third one, we're taking nominations for the position. And the following week, we're immediately having elections to get people in those positions to fill. I've already realized that there's no one that can fill a president position. So I'm going to have to like put myself as a president, even though I originally didn't want to, because it's easier to fill a vice president role with someone that doesn't know what they're doing. So that is, and also feel free to ask your members already now that maybe are in a leadership team position that aren't like nominated, but they're helping you. Like if you feel like they can step up and be in those e-board roles, I would encourage you to use this summer to build them up and encourage them to get put in that role. Or even if there's just a person that was in like the res hall governments that you saw was that you could fill that position, the biggest thing for you is I would say contact those people, get in touch with them and work with them and try to encourage them to fill that position in the fall.
Thank you both for that, because yeah, like what Kobe was just saying, we in the past we've had members that have left during the year, but we've never had not enough members at the beginning of it. So that was kind of stressful, and I think you're right. Delegating is going to be the most important task, because as of right now, we have kind of our necessary roles. We have a VP of admin and finance, VP of programming, and then the president. And then we have, of course, NCC and NCC and training. But then like our VP of advocacy, community service, health and safety, all of those like are not there, which makes it kind of difficult because we relied on them very heavily on programs, even though our VP of programming is like, the VP of programming, it's her job. It was more of her job to make their visions come to life. So I guess it's tough just because like we don't have any like people with I don't know, like looking at specific things. Like as of right now, 2 big things that are happening in this world is Black Lives Matter and coronavirus. And so not having a VP of health and wellness and VP of advocacy is kind of difficult. Oh, we also don't have a VP of PR, which also sucks. But yeah, it's not an easy thing, because I know like we were taught, like my whole thing about this year too was branding more, because we just haven't had a lot of like attendance to our programs and all that. So I wanted to brand this out a lot, which is kind of difficult when you don't have a VP of PR. So, but thank you both. That it helped. It helped a lot. Really good.
I just wanted to jump in really quick. What Caitlin said, honestly, the delegating your task is like what you said to like the most important thing you can do. Like I'll just give an example of what I've done so far for the summer. So like I created a summer task list and like it's like a document in our Google Drive, and I like went by position, and I'm like just listed everything out that like to do over the summer and to get done. And yeah, and just like maybe like as the president, just like take that role on of like delegating tasks of like those other positions if you have to. And then as far as social media goes, and like, you know, you're missing your, what'd you say, VP of public relations, right? Yeah, okay. So just something you could do, like just a little bit of advice, like what we've been doing is for now, just because of, again, like Corona and this situation, just like try to keep your social medias active if you can. Like our PR chair is like posting every day, like resources for BLM and just like things like that. So if you can try to keep your social medias like as active as you can, not like Instagram posts every day or anything, but like we do on our story, like resources and things like that. So just like to try to keep yourselves like afloat and like let people know you're still there. And then like even just things we do throughout the summer, like we last week we did like introducing the new e-board, and it was just like a post of each of us, and then on the story it like focused on our own bios. And then we do like e-board check-ins throughout the summer. So like in July we'll probably do the first one, like what is our president up to, and then it's like me, and it's like pictures of what I've done, and just like in the bio you say like, oh, Gina was doing this. So just like those are some things you could do if that helps. I don't know if that helps, but yeah, I'm not in the position where like I have a full e-board, but last 2 years ago when I was a secretary on the e-board, the treasurer spot, like we had one, but then she got called to be an RA, and you can't be an RA and on e-board, so that happened, and like we didn't have a treasurer, and that hurt. Like, and that was even one position, because like, you know, who was just like, it kind of fell on the president at the time, so that was like a little rough. So I can't even imagine not having like 3 positions or like you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I always underestimate how much a treasure is until they're gone. Yeah, because I was like, my treasure last year, yeah, the same thing kind of happened. They did, not an RA, but they became in housing residence life, and so they just like the time wouldn't work, so we had to find someone else. But during the month of us trying to find someone else, that delegated it to me, and I thought it was just like, oh, you just gotta keep a couple numbers, but there's like a lot more. So I agree with you that it's a tough thing to not have, and I hope that we get some more people soon. Yeah, and I just wanted to say real quick because somebody said it earlier, and it just kind of triggered in my head. Somebody said, and I'm sorry that I can't remember who, that they were having to cut down on their area councils or like residence councils or whatever you called them, to like 5 people for like 500 and like a dorm or something. Something that we did a while ago is we kind of modeled our area councils after e-boards. So except for a couple less positions, because you know they don't need an NCC. But so there's about like 8 positions, and you know it's just president, ACC who attends the meetings, admin, finance, programs, community service, health and safety, and then we just recently added advocacy. So I guess 9. I don't know if that's something that you've thought about. I don't know how you construct your area councils. I know it's different, but that's how we do it. So I don't know if that helps at all.
That actually definitely helps for me, because like one of our issues, again from like last year, is like, so we call an SAC, student advocacy chairs, like they're kind of like the president of the res council, if you want to say. They're just like the main representative, like they always have to be a general body, and like they're just the main representative of that res council. And then like what we kind of did last year, we were like, oh yeah, you can have a secretary too, and like if you want, and oh, you can have a PR chair if you want. But like, yeah, we didn't really, like, I kind of want to do that, like make it strict. Like honestly just like put those kind of positions in a res council, because one, like it could attract more members, like, and you're not just like a member, you're like, oh, I'm the secretary of a res council. So like I think that would help. So thank you for saying that, like model it after your e-board. I like that, because like that would definitely help. And then another thing to add to that we were thinking of doing, I actually got it from conference, like someone said at some point, was put like a separate advocacy chair too in the res council, which I like that idea too. So yeah, thank you for saying that, definitely.
Yeah, no problem. I also have heard too, and somebody said this, and I don't remember who. I'm sorry. I'm not even trying to remember who. But somebody said they are splitting their councils into, so instead of having area councils with small councils, they're each going to be like a task force. So I think this might have been what you just said. And sorry if I'm repeating. But like, yeah, you said something about like a second advocacy. For them, it would be a whole group of people for just advocacy. Another group of people would be health and wellness. um I don't think our school could do that. I mean, it'd just be a lot of work if we did, so I don't know how I would even go about that, but that's another option
Oh,
possibly.
like you're saying committees. Yeah, we can't
Committees,
like,
yes.
yeah, okay, yeah, like we don't have enough members to do that. So like what we have is like our residence council. It's like one resident council per hall building. So like a hall council, if you want to say. And then like for now it's just like there's the main like SAC representative, then like there's secretary, and then like just then there's just like general members of the res council. But I want to make it more structured. So like, you know, it's funny, we call it the student advocacy chair, but like they're not actually, it's not actually an advocacy chair. That's like, I don't know how that name started, that's like before my time, but like they're just it's basically a president, in other words, of like the res council. So maybe we'll change the wording. But then like I said, I kind of want to have like an advocacy chair of each res council. That's like actually advocacy, because that's something we're really getting into, is like advocacy and service, and like starting in NRHH too. So yeah, like we don't have enough members though to do, I don't know who mentioned that before, like you said about like having committees instead, but you know, we don't do that. We just have like the res councils. And then we have committees in RHA, like under e-board and stuff. Like we have an advocacy committee. So then like each advocacy chair in a res council could report to them. But, and then we tried a programming committee, but like that didn't really work out so well. But yeah.
So I know modeling our hall councils after like our e-board basically right now is we basically already do that because we have president, VP, and treasurer for hall councils. And then the only additional like RHA e-board member we have is NCC. It's with like the additional members we let them have, because like having 3 people try and like plan events for like 500 people, it's like really hard. So we tell them that they can have like floor representatives to kind of cut down that, so that they have like each floor has like a voice in like what's happening in programs. But is there any like positions that y'all recommend that we like make a required positions to help them more? The only position that we can't do is like a social media person, because each hall has like an RA who's in charge of the social media. So the president or VP has to go to the RA to post things.
Can I ask, what are your positions already again, like for your area councils?
So we have the required positions are president, VP, and treasurer. And then we allow them to have appointed positions, so that can be like floor representatives. We have like a historian for like having them take pictures and stuff. They can have a secretary if they want to for their meetings. But we always take meetings at like general body meetings. We take those minutes already and give them to them, so they don't need that. And then like other little positions that they might think of in order to help them, but they only really have like 3 required ones.
So a position that I definitely would recommend, I don't, well, I guess because you're cutting down on the size now, I'm not quite sure. But since your school is pretty large with 6,000, 7,000 people, um I would recommend an ACC or like just like a representative at your general body meetings if you have those. Just because it's just like when it comes to voting and stuff, just having one voice always helps out. I know that some schools do have the president for that. At my school, I'm not allowed to vote unless it's a tie. Um, I don't know why. I always find that weird, but not going to argue with it. Um, so that's why the ACC is important for our schools. Um, that might be something that you might want to look into. Um, also, having what does ACC stand for? ACC stands for. I've had to think about this for a while. Area Council Communicator, I believe, or coordinator, but I think it's communicator. So, yeah, and it's just like they're the people who talk to e-board about area council, and then or they take what we tell them back to to their area council. Sorry, so they're like kind of the bridge between the two groups. So that might be something that's worth having. Another position that we just added, but I feel like would be beneficial in any capacity is VP of Advocacy, just because the whole point of RHA is to represent their residents. So if you had a VP of Advocacy or some position with advocacy, you could get a lot. They could get a lot of feedback from the residents. They could do programs specifically for the residents, and also kind of build bridge that gap as well, like between area council and their residents. If that makes sense. Those are what I find to be the two most important. Personally, in my experience, health and safety, community service, and our programming. Program is important, but like those two, I always have been like kind of iffy about because on an area council level, they just don't ever seem to like do a whole lot. Like there are programs around it, but they're usually much bigger programs that just kind of added into it. So to reiterate, ACC and advocacy is what I would say would be a good thing to add. Okay. Oh.
Kobe, I wanted to ask you a question because you were bringing up sort of your NRHH. That I'm hoping that's the right acronym because we don't have one at my school. We used to, but we don't have one anymore. How is yours set up? Because I was talking to my CC and she was thinking of creating a committee in RHA that will be our NRHH. And I told her I have no idea how that would work or if that was even possible because it sounds like it needs to be a separate organization. So I was just wondering how your school, like, does your school have a separate RHA from NRHH or is it like combined together or what?
So yeah, actually our two organizations are separate. There is a lot of overlap. Though many of the NRHH members were previously in RHA or our hall governments, as we call them. So yeah, we work a lot together. So the NRHH at our school's budget comes directly from RHA. They get a $10,000 budget. It's just its own line item in the RHA budget every year. And so our NRHH focuses mostly on service and recognition, while RHA just does a bunch of other stuff. So like our RHA does not do a lot with service and recognition. Like they have, they do a lot. There's a whole diversity aspect of our RHA. There's like some of the members meet with campus resources every week to kind of go through that. So that's like what RHA focuses on. And then NRHH focuses on that service and recognition. And so whenever there's like a service event on campus or through residence life, it's pretty much always through NRHH, and same with recognition. Like we have recognition days, NRHH sets those up. Like service events, NRHH sets that up. And then they go to the RHA and to the hall governments to get like those volunteers. And I think a big problem with it in past years has been that since our RHA, including like all the hall governments, has been like 200, 250 members, and our NRHH is like 30. So it's been kind of hard for like the people that are in the hall governments to really see the difference, because for them, the presidents and vice presidents of every hall government go to the body meeting of RHA, and they bring back that information to their hall governments. And so whenever there's a big event going on that NRHH is hosting, they come to the RHA body and present it. They're like, here is our dining center appreciation day or whatever. And then those presidents and vice presidents take it back to their halls and they're like, here, this is what we're doing. We're creating this poster that's going to hang up outside whatever dining center. And then those people really don't see that connection. And so they think it comes like directly from RHA. And so NRHH kind of has sat in the background, except for like those people that are directly in it. And that's always been something hard, but I don't know. It's weird because they do function, they are two separate organizations, but most of the time we just get them grouped together. So like we talk about our big four organizations on campus, which is our RHA / NRHH, our campus attractions that just does events, our student government, and our fraternity and sorority life. But they always group RHA and NRHH together. Like they're not viewed as separate because they're both within residence life. And so there is a lot of effort to try to make NRHH more known in RHA, and especially now after NACURH, where they got rid of the member cap in NRHH. Now it's up to the schools whether or not they want to keep it. We'll see how that goes with our NRHH. Since I'm not on the board anymore, I don't really know what they're planning. Where was I going? Oh, so like for our NRHH chapter, our president also serves as a member on the RHA exec board. So there is that constant connection between them two. So they serve as, they're technically two separate roles. So they are the NRHH president, and then they also are the NRHH RHA liaison, but they are essentially a full member of our RHA exec board. It's always been kind of contentious because it's a member on the exec board of RHA, and according to our constitution, the RHA exec board gets compensated, NRHH exec board does not. But since the NRHH president is also on the RHA exec board, they by default get compensated, while the rest of the NRHH exec board does not. And a lot of people have had problems with that. Well, one, just the fact that there's one member on the NRHH exec board that gets compensated while the rest don't. And then two, that they serve as a member on the RHA exec board, but they were never voted by the RHA. They were voted only by the NRHH. So I don't know. I don't know if I kind of just went off on a tangent or if I answered like really any questions any of your questions. I can try to clarify some things too if you'd like.
No, you're good. You answered the question. So I guess my question would be like, I don't know if you have committees or not at your school, but for us committees, it's like one week you have a general body meeting, but then the following week you'll have committee meetings. So that's the committee of budget, because we sponsor a lot of organizations on campus, or the committee of CIA, which is like, it goes through our bylaws and it goes through our constitution and changes it if it needs to be from our legislation that we pass. So what I would ask is, could you see like an NRHH be transferred into a committee, since there's so much overlap? Does that make any sense? Because each committee for us has a chair and a co-chair already, and has like an advisor on it. So I would see like that gray area that you have of like the president being inside of like being paid but not being elected. Like they would just be a chair, and then our advisor, our CC, would be the advisor of it, so they'd be able to report back and everything. So I was just like wondering if you could see that happening, like if that would work.
I mean, I don't see why it couldn't work. For us, it probably wouldn't work in the way, I mean, because even though they are very connected, they do a lot of stuff separately. So the NRHH, like I mean, I guess I'm in NRHH as well. So like we do all sorts of fun activities that's just for like the chapter and stuff like that. And I mean, it very much functions as its own organization that does their own like even service and recognition events as well. It's just the really big ones across campus, they bring in RHA. So I don't know. I mean, I definitely feel like it could be in as like some branch of your RHA. But I guess I really don't know.
For me, we also have an NRHH on our campus. I think that it's possible for you to make it a committee. I think the only thing is trying to make sure that, well, I'm not sure how your like region is set up, but in the NACURH region, there's like a lot of resources for NRHH that I feel like if we made it a committee, they would be like left out on. So trying to make sure that y'all can still get that information if your region has that kind of, I guess, avenue. And then another thing we were trying to do is trying to get it to where we combine both of those organizations into one. So our NRHH is a volunteer organization, so that's why they don't get paid. But we were trying to add like an advocacy and then a service basically component to RHA instead of having two separate organizations. So I don't know if that's maybe something that you would like to do instead of just having it as a committee. But the committee part of it should be able to work, just because it's like if you did have NRHH, it'll basically still kind of be a committee, if that makes sense.
To kind of jump into, so our NRHH is kind of like yours, where it's like a separate organization, but it is volunteer as well. So like that's why they wouldn't get paid. But we also have what Kobe was saying, where there's like that gray area where they are part of the e-board, like the president is, and they get paid as well, but the rest of their committee does not, or their e-board, I guess I should say. And that's kind of a gray area. I know last year there was also another problem where it doesn't specifically say in the rules that the president has to be the one that is like the representative for NRHH at our e-board meetings. So one of their other e-board members was coming to the meetings and like being the representative, but she was not being paid because she was not the president. That's a whole thing that I don't even want to get into, but that was like crazy. But when it comes to saying if NRHH could be a committee like for RHA, I think it could be. I do not know enough about NIHH to like give you the rundown. I don't know their positions and stuff like that. I know that our NIHH personally, they could not be a committee because they're so big. They're like almost the same size as RHA. Just they're more quiet than they are, or they don't advertise as much as we do. We like to like put ourselves in front of the spotlight essentially, while they do all the background stuff kind of, and recognize people and all that. But I think it could be a committee. I don't know necessarily if it would be on the same scale as like our NRHH would be, since it would be a committee. It wouldn't be like a giant organization, but I think it's definitely possible, and I think that would be like a good like thing to go down because they do a lot of things, and unfortunately, I don't know all of the things they do, but I know that they recognize a lot of people and they win a lot of awards and stuff, like OTMs and stuff like that. And usually we get some of like our best e-board members are from NRHH, and vice versa. So I don't know if that's anything, but just wanted to add on. So.
I have a question for Kobe. Too, actually. So first of all, thank you guys all, because I'm in the same boat as Caitlin. Like, we're trying to start our NRHH back up like this year, and we're like really looking into it because like we used to have one, but now like we haven't for the past like 5 years or something. So like thank you guys for all your input. So just to understand the problem that you mentioned, because I feel like this would be a problem we would have too. You said like, so the hall govs were putting on like appreciation events, I think you said, that like NRHH would normally do. Is that what you were saying, kind of? Just so I understand.
No, it's more like NRHH is the one that plans them, but then like the hall governments are the ones that do them. So like NRHH will plan it out. Like say our recognition chair will be like, okay, we'll give this hall, they can appreciate this dining center, this hall, because we have 3 dining centers. So it's gonna be like this hall can appreciate this one, like this one can do this coffee shop on campus. And that's what they do. Yeah, so that's how it goes.
Okay, thank you. And then I guess this is kind of a general NRHH question just because I don't know, but so like what we were kind of planning on doing this year to get it started was like, especially with Corona and everything too, we were going to take this fall semester to, like, as an RHA board, try to recruit members for NRHH, like ourselves, like contacting like this. We have a service fraternity, we have like service groups on campus. So we were going to like contact all of them and see if they would be interested. So my question was like, can you start, or like, I don't know when NRHH inductions are, can you like start it up in the spring as opposed to like the beginning of the year in the fall, is my question. Or like NRHH in general.
Yeah. Also, I just quickly put in there a little link to a drive because I gave a education session about this during NACURH.
Oh, awesome. Okay, thank you.
So there's there's a link to a whole bunch of resources, like everything that we've done this last year. But I think very much so you could do NRHH, and this is something that so ours runs like they're candidates, so their whole recruitment process, like being candidate members of our chapter, like is in the fall. They get inducted very early spring semester, and then the rest of the year everyone's a full member of our NRHH chapter. I did talk, I discussed, so both of our organizations have the same advisor, which is really, really helpful. So I did talk with our advisor about the possibility of shifting the entire process back a semester, just because it is really hard. Like it's a hard acronym to remember. It took me forever to remember NRHH. And so I think, and because like it's not as flashy, very much so as like RHA is, and moving it back, like getting the name out there, like within the members. And my hope with it was that more people in RHA would see it, and then be willing or be wanting to join in that spring semester. I personally think that you could recruit much stronger, in the spring semester, and then and then it gives you another problem that I had too, is because as the vice president, I oversaw recruitment and induction in our chapter, but recruitment happened like the planning process was the whole summer, and then it was like in the first couple of weeks of school. And so I also oversaw the recruitment and induction committee in our chapter, which was just made up of body members. But they really didn't do anything for recruitment because it was done by the time we were starting for the year. And I thought with that, like I could have incorporated that whole committee into the recruitment process more. And so I personally think that you could have a really strong recruitment just by going in the spring. The only real downside I saw to that, and I guess it really depends on your campus, is because our fraternities and sororities focus so much on service, that so many people will be wanting to join them because they do all their recruitment in the fall as well, that they might not want to join our NRHH. But yeah, I think doing it in the spring is perfectly fine.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Kobe, for just for enlightening us on all that stuff, because NRHH, even though I know it and it's like our sister organization, for me personally, I do not know a lot about it. So I just want to say thank you for just telling us more about it, because I didn't know all that information beforehand, and I'm fairly certain that our NRHH is similar, if not nearly the same. So thank you.
Yeah, no, like I've bounced around between both exec boards. So 2 years ago now, I was the NCC for RHA. And then this last year I was on the NRHH exec board. And now I'm president of RHA. And I think it's actually giving me a lot of good insight as president of RHA to have served in a high leadership role within the NRHH. And so I think it's just really connecting with them. We do a lot together, and that's something I didn't mention. So like we do training before school starts, that like week before, and most of that is combined. And they do, like both our exec boards do training together. We do a lot of like fun game nights or whatever together, that kind of stuff. So I think just really connecting we also do the entire transition process, which is our whole spring semester together as well. So we're all there, and it really does kind of help explain what each organization does, what each role in each organization does. And so I think that's really beneficial.
Well, thank you once again, either way. So, does anybody have any other questions or anything real quick? No? Okay. So I was saving this last topic for like kind of the end, or because it's kind of a big thing. I am curious, and hold on. I need to rethink what I was just about to say. I was curious what you guys are doing in regards for the Black Lives Matter movement and everything that's going on currently around that, because I am kind of stumped of what I'm supposed, like what I should do and what I'm supposed to do. I just that whole thing is kind of an area that I wasn't ready for. Because part of my job is to represent our residents in every way. Like we are the representation to the school. And so this all kind of hit really fast, as everything does this year. Um, so I just am curious, if you guys have done anything for that. What are the things you've done, like, and how you're handling that as of right now? Because I'm not sure how to handle it personally. So
I'll go because I literally just did this yesterday or the day before. So what I did, so yeah, I completely get what you're saying. Like, we're voice for residents, like, I completely feel that. So what we did was I crafted an email and I sent it to, first we started with just our RHA members, and like, so RHA, and it was just like, we hear you, we stand with you, we see you, like that thing. And we're like, RHA does not condone, we kind of made like some statements. So it was like, RHA does not condone like the actions and violence taken against George Floyd, and we support people fighting for like justice and equality and like things like that. So we had like a statement. And then what we decided to do, actually our PR chair, she like texted me about this. We had a whole conversation, and what we decided at our e-board meeting just a week ago was to put out a Google form. And we asked, I can actually send the link for it in here, because we asked like 4 or 5 like specific questions. It was like, just kind of, how are you feeling with the whole situation? And then it was like, what would you like to see change at Hofstra? So it's like kind of tailored to your university. So this was very to like hear from our residents, because like you said, like and especially this year, like we really want to push that we are their voice, and like we want to hear from them. So that's what in the email I was like, RHA wants to hear from you. Like, so that would just went out to our members first. And I was hoping in like another week or so we could kind of get out to like residents in general too. That's like a kind of bigger task. And my advisor suggested maybe even teaming up with SGA for that. So like that's a whole other thing. But like for now, we just did it for RHA. And so we did that. And then on social media, we've been posting, like we posted for for Blackout Tuesday. We did like a thing. And then our PR chair has just been posting resources onto our story, kind of like how everyone has, just like different things to donate to, things to read, different articles, things like that. So yeah, I would say like in terms of what you should do, definitely put out some kind of statement or like email like I did. I'll send the link to that Google form that we did, because I thought that was a great idea that she came up with, just like hearing from your residents. Yeah, and then like one of the things we talked about at the meeting too was just like not to make this a one-time discussion, but like continue this throughout the whole year. So like bring these things up, bring these issues up, like send forms like that just continuously. Oh, and then another thing I just remembered we discussed was having this thing called Feedback Fridays, like throughout, like I think that was one of the questions on the form. It was like, would you be interested in just having further discussion via Zoom or like a Feedback Friday thing? So it would be like, we would, like our e-board would be on Zoom, and just whoever would want to come and just talk with us and anything like that. So like that could potentially be starting for us maybe in the next month or two, or like throughout the year if like we get feedback on it. So yeah, that's just what like we did at Hofstra so far in terms of like everything, if that helped.
That was really helpful, actually. Feedback Fridays is a good idea. All the statements and the survey, I think, sound like a survey. What did it sound like? Kind of like what?
Yeah, like it was a Google form, so it was like the survey format. And yeah, wait, I'll send the link right now. I'm getting it up, but we called it like Hofstra RHA Diversity and Inclusion Form, I think is what it's called. Hang on, I'm pulling it up right now. Yeah, Diversity and Inclusion Feedback Form. And then so we just like in the beginning we did a little paragraph, like really briefly. I'll just kind of read like key parts. It was like, the Residence Hall Association of Hofstra University holds strong values of diversity, inclusion, and advocacy. We vow to actively continue to improve and educate ourselves and others on an ongoing basis. Even though we cannot be together right now, it is increasingly important that we support and hear from you, like with recent events. We openly welcome both your feedback and criticism. So yeah, and then, so okay, the forum, yeah, I will send the link. Yeah, it's like I made it like required to collect email addresses. So it's like your email address. Are you a Hofstra resident? How can we as a Hofstra organization support you? What do you think could be improved upon in terms of diversity and inclusion? What would you like to see? And then this could be just like in RHA, or you could even say like at your university. So like whatever level you want to kind of do it. Would you be interested in attending a support group? If so, what would you like this to look like? So that's something like we would build upon, like based on the responses. Do we hold like feedback Fridays? Do we hold like a specific support group for this? Do we like pair with someone and do that? What mode of feedback, constructive criticism involving diversity and inclusion would you like to see moving forward? Examples: Zoom group feedback Friday, monthly Google Forms, etc. And then the last one is just like any additional feedback or resources you'd like to share with us. So yeah, that's what we put on like the form, which I will send the link to. So yeah, that's what we did.
I can go next. So I'm meeting with my other RHA members sometime soon once they send in their schedules. But basically, we've already started trying to plan about what we can do. And so we have this one event that we have at the end of the fall semester, which is basically a fundraiser event. And usually what we fundraise money for is for this youth group in our town. But this year we're thinking that we can get like Black organizations that we can raise money for in order to donate to them. And then another idea I was having was that usually our RHA, we have like some organizations or people on our campus come and talk to our general body. So it'll be like we've had our UPD come and talk. We've had like our diversity and inclusion committee come and talk to them and things like that. So we're thinking about incorporating minority organizations on campus to come and talk about like what their organizations are for and like what they are catered towards, so that we can get more like minority voices out to, you know, reach students more. And we're also in the process of like, we do tabling on the quad, which is basically like, you know, whatever we want to like table about. So last year we did a lot of like voter registration and like knowing your rights. So this year we're thinking about doing a lot more of like resources to like kind of get your knowledge up about like, I guess Black Lives Matters, and then like more voting things since it's 2020 and we have the elections coming up as well. And then we're looking at trying to do more things, but we have to wait until we can have our Zoom calls and stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a lot of information, and a lot of that stuff too is also what we've been thinking as well. Like when you were saying trying to my mind is blinking. Hold on. Trying to get involved more with like organizations like our LGBTQ community, African American community, Hispanic community. I know we have, for us at least, we have. I can't think of the word that you call that. It's like an organization that is surrounded like that. I wish I could think of the word. I really can't think of the word. But there are organizations that are surrounded like that, or that deal with that community to like both be advocacy to help them like when they need it, and to represent them in the school. I really can't think of the name of their like organizations. I know they have named. I just can't think of it. But we've been wanting to work with them a lot more, and now it's more important than ever, especially with the whole the last 2 weeks, or yeah, well, at least I saw it like in the last 2 weeks with everything going on. I think now that's like the most important thing is to reach out more to oops, sorry, I muted myself by accident. Other organizations. personally, what I've been wanting to do for our school is well, first off, I wanted to put out a statement. I haven't put out a statement personally yet because I saw the responses to our school's statement to it, and I thought it was very negative. I mean, our school was very like, I thought they handled it well, but they didn't go very far into it, I feel like, and that's what made people upset with them, which is understandable. But I thought maybe I should do a little bit more research before I put out a statement, um, because I do not want to bring any negative feedback to RHA, and I also don't want to misrepresent the communities. So I don't know. Like, how would you guys? I know like Gina and Mahogany, you guys have already had a statement put out there. Um, so like, what did you guys put in your statement? Like, I guess is what I'm asking.
So I will say I am the same boat as you because one, we don't have a DPR right now that's in charge of this whole thing. And then two, we also don't have a chief of diversity and inclusions officer who would be the point person. And so it really came down to me. For me, we drafted a letter that, and the biggest thing that we wanted to do, because sadly, I mean, we are a big campus and we have a really big problem when it comes to like racial bias events happening on our campus, and it's a really bad situation that we're constantly working on. So for us, we have to really show that we're trying to change things just because of what happens on our campus. One of the big things that we focused on was that we created a letter that wasn't just saying I'm sorry or that we don't support this. It was being very active. And the biggest things that we were putting in was that we put resources. So we put in here, like one of the biggest things is elect your representatives to represent you. We put in registration to vote, where the elections were, and just like when our voting dates were, and resources for our out-of-state students and how they can register to vote and everything. We included the contact information for our local Black Lives Matter chapter inside of it. We put their Facebook page and their email. We said that we do not oppose the protests, but we advised them to like keep social distance guidelines, or not social distance, just like being safe about it and like giving like precautions and everything. So that was the biggest thing for us, is that, and also to be inclusive, because I remember at one point in our letter we put to the men and women inside the African American community, and then when my advisor, when she looked at it, she was like, you need to change it to community members, especially at this time, because not everyone fits in like that specific thing. So of like man or woman. So we like said community members. So it's just little things like that, just trying to be, don't just make it like a blanket statement. That's the biggest thing that we get hit on, is like our students are like, this is just a blanket statement. We get 15 million of these. We're going to get 15 million from every single organization saying I'm sorry. And we really wanted to make sure that we included something to say, this is the actions that we're taking. This is actions you can take as a student to invoke change.
Yeah, to go off what Caitlin did, that's what we did, something really similar with our email, like not just saying we're sorry. We were like, so here, I'll read a little bit because I don't want to leave. If you want the whole thing, like you could drop your email. I could forward this to you, anyone who wants it. But so basically we're just like, okay, so we said, in light of recent events across the country, the Residence Hall Association would like to take some time to address the issues at hand as well as our response. And I bolded the word response. I said, RHA, so this was like our statement part of it, this little paragraph here. So I was just like, RHA strives to uphold strong values of diversity, inclusion, and advocacy in everything we do. With that being said, we do not condone any of the recent actions or behaviors taken against George Floyd. We are in support of those who are fighting for justice and equality among all people, regardless of race. Archie stands together in solidarity against racism, violence, and injustice. And then in bold, I put, you are seen, you are heard, we are with you. So that was like the statement part of the email. And then the next part I go into, due to these circumstances, we see this, our duty as the Resident Hall Association to do our part by providing support in any way we can and being there for those that we served. And then that's when I kind of introduced like the Google form, like our Google form thing. And then I was like, it's attached below. And then in bold, I put Archie wants to hear from you. Our members, as our organization is made up of many integral voices. And then, so I attached a Google form, and then, and then I also attached the NACURH official statement that they put out, which was like a link to their drive, and it was like a letter thing. So I included that in the email. And then a list of resources that we compiled. So our PR chair put together, like, it was these pictures of like places to donate, things to read, like things like that, kind of like what Caitlin was mentioning, resources like that. So that's what we did. And then just like as a final thing, or finally, we as a 2021 executive board vow to actively continue to approve and educate ourselves and others on an ongoing basis now and throughout the year to come. So that was like, which is what we plan on doing, definitely, like not just addressing it now and done. Like we want to continue this. So yeah, that's what the email looked like. And then we have the form, and then the resources and the NACURH statement too. Or it was like, it wasn't just a statement, it was like the whole like letter thing that they did.
The thing I would advise you to do, only because my people know this about me, and I am a very passionate person, and dive headfirst into things. One thing I was advised about was the fact that to watch myself on social media, where whether we want to think about this or not, we all have a very big, great opportunity to be student leaders at this time. And we have a really, really big opportunity to make a huge difference, and to just to make a huge difference. And like, really, if we want to make a change, like, we are the people that are going to be able to do that. And I'm very honored in that opportunity. The biggest thing I would say, because I was advised that you need to make sure that not only like your organization's Instagram or your social media is just being like very educational, and enlightening, instead of, and just like making sure of that also like your members. So for me, like, I've been advised to make sure that all of my posts that I repost, or all of the things that I post, are very much so inclusive and educational, and not just like, they told me, like, Caitlin, we don't want you posting something of like you going on a rant for like 5 minutes and it possibly like shies people away from the movement, like that kind of stuff. That's what I would say. A few things that you can do personally is like be that resource of like making sure that either your profile or you yourself as the president are constantly posting things that are educational resources for people to learn and grow. Something that I wanted to do was to create, like, get in touch with, because we have the same thing as you, where it's like distinct organizations on our campus that represent diversity. So for example, we have BSA, which is the Black Students Alliance. One of the things that we want to do right now is to interview people inside of that and create an entire post, like, just not advertising them, but bringing light to what they do on campus and educating people about their organization on our page, hoping that they can get resources from them or be able to talk to them, reach out to them. So we're doing different things like that.
Thank you for sharing that. I really like that.
Yeah, thank you both, all of you, actually, for sharing what you guys have done. It's very helpful because as of right now, like, I have not been able to meet with my council on this situation yet. We're meeting this Wednesday, so it's like something that only right now I'm thinking of. Um, so it's just helpful to see what you guys are doing, and honestly, like all of you guys have done, like it sounds amazing, like what you guys have done. Like their statements, you guys getting involved with other organizations, sending out um, links to websites or to things for people to educate themselves on the situations and everything. That all sounds um, well. Not hold on, lost my train of thought. It's all very helpful to me. Like that's what I'm trying to say. That's the bottom line. This is what I'm trying to say. Like thank you. Um, does anybody else have anything they want to share or say or ask? Because I am now out of questions. Okay. Well, that's pretty much it. I have nothing else. If nobody else has anything else, I think that's the end. I don't know really where to go from here. I would like to say thank you all for coming to this roundtable and participating and like just answering all of my questions and any other questions that anybody else has had. I honestly feel like this was amazing. This is much better than what I thought it was going to be. I was very afraid that first off, I was going to get nobody on here, and that second, it would be a very one-sided talk or something like that, or like just like one person answering a question, or like vice versa. Um, but I mean, I felt very like you all were part of this, so it really felt like we're a community, which we are. We are a community. And I just want to thank you guys for taking the 2 hours, which this meeting has been, to just talk about all this. So yeah, thank you guys. That's pretty much it. We'll have if you guys are still interested, we will have another meeting next month. So yeah, thank you guys for coming, and have a great day or night, whatever time it is. Yeah, so bye guys.